In this video, we will go through the icons and user interface of the coDiagnostiX software. I'm going to start with steps 1 to 7. The first step I need to do once I load the dataset from number 1 is editing the panoramic curve. Once I click on number 1, a new window will appear. In this window, I can use the slider to move upwards. That's basically the axial view. I can also move downward. When I do that, we see the mandible, and if I move upwards, it disappears, and I start seeing the maxilla. Since it's a mandibular case, we are going to scroll down either with the slider, or I can scroll the mouse wheel till I can see a clear view of the mandible, and then start moving these points in the center of the arch. And once I'm done, I click OK, and then the panoramic curve will be drawn. As you can see, the panoramic view doesn't really look like the normal view we are used to, but that's because the panoramic view we are looking at right now contains different slices. If I want to superimpose all the panoramic slices to give me the normal look that we are used to, I am going to click on that flower-like icon on the top right window corner. Step number 2, adding the stone model. You click on the second icon, and you choose the patient's STL file on your computer. And wait for it to finish loading. Once that is done, we want to align to other object. As you can see on the left, we are presented with a list of existing objects to align our STL to. In this example, both objects are duplicates of the mandible, so I'll just choose this one and hit Next. This is where we actually align the objects together. We do this by zooming in on both objects till we can see enough details to work with. Then we click a region on one object to choose as a landmark, and a region on the other object with the same landmark. You can select up to 10 regions, so feel free to zoom out and move around to find more landmarks. Once you have more than 3 regions selected, you can click Next, and the software will align the objects automatically. You will get a message confirming object registration. We can now see the STL object in all views in purple. Clicking this cube icon allows us to fine align it further. We can also drag it and move it in any of the views with the mouse cursor. Once you're done, click Finish, and you're done with STL registration. Step number 3, adding nerves. Because it's a mandibular case, I prefer to add nerves before I start planning. I click on the third icon to add a new list for the nerve canals, or I go back to the plus sign, as I explained earlier. Step number 4, the implant icon. Again, either I use this shortcut or the plus sign to create an implant list. Both options open up an implant library with hundreds of brands of implants. At the top over here, I have my favorites listed, And at the bottom, I have all the other options. So if you click on the star, you can add any implant to your favorites. And it will appear at the top of the screen. Steps numbers 5 and 6 are the steps we use while designing the guide. So we are not going to need them while planning the case. Step number 7. To see if you want to print or save the file as a PDF. So if you want to show the case to the patient or one of your colleagues who doesn't have the software, you can send them a PDF file. The first page is a screenshot of views, and the other pages consist of the implant details and a print screen of all views of every single implant in the plan. You just click on PDF over here and save it into one of your folders. Now I will explain to you our 5 views. The first view here is the cross-sectional view. If I want to minimize or maximize any of the views, I could double-click on the tab that has the view name. On the top right corner of every view, you'll find a couple of options. One for the full screen, and the second is a drop-down arrow to choose a combination of any 2 views together. We rarely use this step except with segmenting the nerves of the mandible. My 2 favorite views are the cross-section view and panoramic view while segmenting nerve canals. Another button over here is Reset the View. So we have a magnifying glass on the top tab for zoom in. Hold and drag up to zoom in. Hold and drag down to zoom out. There is another magnifying glass with an X over here, and this button resets all the views. For the 3D view, we have an eye icon which I can open and click on. Left, right, anterior, or posterior. Right now, I'm going to explain the icons that I have over here on the top tab. First one we have here is an implant with 2 green arrows. Because I don't have any implants now, it's not highlighted, but later on we will explain the significance of this icon. The next symbol over here is a localizer, which shows specific parts of the scan. And the next symbol is for reference lines. So whenever I scroll upwards or downwards, on the axial view, you can see that blue line in all other views. If I move through the cross-sectional view, you're going to see the red line moving in all other views. As I am moving through the panoramic view, you can see the green curve in the axial cut moving as well. So that's basically the reference lines guiding you through the scans and telling you where you are exactly looking. I'm going to go back to the localizer symbol. Let's say I want to evaluate position number 20. I am going to choose a point in number 20, and automatically all the other views are locked to this specific point. We have the magnifying glass and the reset buttons, and we have the move and turn button. We also have the modify object position that can move any object, and the cube that can move the scan itself. So let's say I want to zoom into the scan so I can evaluate the inferior border of the mandible. I can use the cube with the cursor to move the scan itself up and down. And then we have an undo button. So once I start planning, if I want to remove my implant, I can just click undo or redo to bring it back. And then we have an object here which is a magnifying glass with the letter H. H stands for Hounsfield, the density measurement unit. So if I click on this object and maximize the cross-sectional view, it gives me a reading. If I click on soft tissue, it gives me a reading from 0 to 200. And if I click on the cortical bone over here, it gives me almost 1000 HU. So it gives you an idea about the bone quality of the patient. Anything between 375 and 750 would be D3. And anything below 375 HU is D4. Anything between 750 and D1250 is D2. And anything above 1250 is D1 bone. Keep in mind that density measurement is not always 100% accurate, but is just there to give you an idea about the bone quality of the patient. Again, we have an implant here with an angled ruler. That's to measure the angulation differences between any two implants you have planned. And then we have the brightness and contrast controls. So if the scans are too dark, you can brighten them, and vice versa. The last icon here is exactly like the reference line toggle button I mentioned earlier, but the lines show up in the 3D view this time. And now we are done with the explanation of the user interface and icons of the software. And in the next video, we are going to start planning a case.